Ready, set, and this is a build that somebody in chat wanted to talk about. I'm going to clip this and put it on YouTube because I think it's a worthwhile conversation. This is a conversation about why inevitable judgment is oftentimes a bad idea. Long time ago, this node was pretty good. Recently, it's kind of fallen off. There's a handful of reasons for that, but we're going to talk about some of those right now. This person in chat wanted to play some kind of conversion melee build in SSF as an Inquisitor. Generally speaking, I probably wouldn't recommend it. I would probably just go like Fizz and Pale Champion kind of thing, but we're just kind of trying to build around this set of parameters and see where those parameters take us. So we've coming up against a wall. Do we want penetration or do we want inevitable judgment instead? So in this build, we have no wave of conviction. We have no curse. We have one mark from Assassin's Mark here. We're at 95 chance to hit, 48-70 for our crit chance. We use a Paradoxica, an okay Paradoxica, and an Allen's Might. In terms of penetration, we have none because we're an Inquisitor. So let's see if we can make a few small changes and make this DPS go up. So first things first, we're at 504. We can mark this down in Notepad because I like using Notepad. We're at 540,000, right? Good. Notepad, you stay over there. So if we take this out, let's start thinking about the ways that we can get penetration into our build. So we can go Wave of Conviction, which is nice. Wave of Conviction and Frostbomb both give exposure at 25%. If you have the keyword exposure from some kind of like cluster jewel, those tend to be about 10%. But all these natural sources of exposure like Wave of Conviction give 25. So let's come over here. Let's go Wave of Conviction in the Configuration tab. Bloop. So now we're at 450k. So we've almost beaten it already. Let's make sure that we're looking at Shaper DPS because that's going to matter for us. Standard boss, nope. Shaper has elemental resistances. We're going to tick here. All right, I'm going to change my number. We were 505. Okay, I'm going to change this to 505 because we were looking at the wrong thing. This is 505k DPS. If we lower this down, we're going to take these nodes off and we turned on our Wave of Conviction on cold exposure. This is our only source of exposure so far. We're at 400k. If we take one of these nodes over here, let's say that we've, what is this? Attack damage, you cast a spell recently. Attack speed if you attacked recently. So let's see, cast a spell recently. Let's say we cast a spell recently. Let's say that we use Blood Rage or something, right? If we take Blood Rage, we've already beaten Inevitable Judgment. We've already done better, right? This is a one element build. This is Frost Blades fully converted to cold damage. If we did this instead, we're at 462. We need to work a little bit harder, but we also get some defenses. We get nearby enemies deal less elemental damage. So this is like, it already kind of rivals it. Remember, this is 462 compared to 505. So this one already beats it if we cast a spell recently. This one almost beats it, but it also has some extra defense in it. You have other kinds of penetration as well. Let's check our Assassin's Mark. If you type in the word curse, it'll sort by whichever curses apply or give you the most DPS. So if we're like combined DPS here, maybe we want to go like damage over time if you're damage over time build, but let's click combined DPS. If we type in the word, hold on, uncheck this, uncheck Assassin's Mark. If we type in the word curse one more time, it'll sort by which one gives us the most DPS. Assassin Mark, our crit is relatively low. It's under 50 without a diamond flask. It's at 70% with the diamond flask up. So Assassin Mark seems to be pretty good for us. If we had more power charges, if we had more crit somewhere else in our build, then you would see that Frostbite climbs up and becomes even better, right? So that's another consideration. Let's leave it at Assassin Mark for now. If you're in Softcore Trade League, or if you're lucky enough to get this kind of thing, you could consider using a Wise Oak, right? Wise Oak gives you a little bit of defense, especially if you're triple balanced, and it gives you a little bit of offense as well, with damage penetrating 15 res. Remember, damage penetration doesn't do anything if you're ignoring the resistance altogether. So let's grab a Wise Oak. I'm going to put this Wise Oak in over your at Series Promise. Let's go take a look. We're at 469, and now we're at 473. That's pretty good. We lost a little bit of leech, right? We lost a little bit of chaos res, but we gained a different kind of defense in exchange, right? So maybe you use this over a diamond flask if you have enough crit. Maybe you use it over a life flask or basalt flask. Probably not, but my point is, if you can balance like what your flasks are giving you, what kind of suffixes your blue flasks are giving you, how many unique flasks you want to use in your build, you can kind of strike a balance of exactly what you want your setup to be, what you want these flasks to be, right? Remember, this is a SSF character that we're talking about. So we have a Wise Oak. This is another way of penetrating resistance. That puts us at 473. Remember, we're trying to get up to the 505k DPS mark. If we swap back to this, if we cast a spell recently, we're at 505, and then we're at 509, and now with a Wise Oak, we're at 511. So we're even a little bit higher than that. We can get damage penetrates on a, let's see, we're using Paradox and On's Might right now, which is interesting. We could get damage penetrates on an amulet. We could get damage penetrates on rings. I think you can get on rings. You can definitely get on amulets. Let's leave it right there. Some of the nodes on the tree, some of these things that we've already taken, this says damage with weapons penetrates 5% elemental resistance. We gain access to this line of text that's on Primeval Force because we've dropped this node. If we're using this node, things like this on the skill tree, which are otherwise super good, are relatively less good. I can actually show you exactly how much. See how it says unallocating this node will give you minus 12% DPS? Allocating this will give you 13.8. So call it like 13.0, okay? It's gonna be 13.0 DPS. If I click on this, oh, let's see. Let's do one node at a time, right? Let's go like this. About 13, 13.7, it's about the same. So if I turn this on, click, this node is only 8% DPS. So that 5% penetration actually represents about 5% more total DPS to your build, right? And like, you've already got this. You're not even going out of the way to pick this up. We're just unspecking out of this and specking into that instead. Let's see, what else can we talk about? We talked about Amulet can have damage penetrates. We talked about curses. We were currently using Assassin's Mark, which is fine. Talked about Wise Oak. We could use cold penetration support. Oh, we also talked about cold exposure, which is very important. We could talk about Bone Chill, but we tend to not use that because like it's kind of slot intensive. So Bone Chill is something we can think about as well, but let's stay off it for the time being. Let's go. What about like melee fizz? Let's turn off hypothermia. I'm gonna put everything on 2020. Let's sort by DPS. I'm gonna turn all these off. This is probably the right choice here. But let's take a look at combined DPS, awakened, non-awakened, melee distance 0. Because we're using swords and we want to consider close combat. We can think about like cold pen, maybe even cold penetration here is something we want to consider. Close combat, I like that. LA damage with attacks, I kind of like that as well. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Fortify, I like keeping it in there no matter what. Multi-strike, sure, I get it. Like maybe our last link is LA focus. No, it's not, because we're trying to freeze and shatter. Maybe ruthless, like ruthless cold penetration. Like actually, cold penetration is giving you more damage than hypothermia. Look at this. It's about 0.5% more damage than hypothermia is. And hypothermia is like a totally excellent totally excellent gem, but because we're actually using penetration instead of ignoring it, we get to over penetrate, which is a mechanic that otherwise you can't use if you're using stuff like this. So let's go ahead and click on one of these. I think even with the large range of Frostblades, for the most part, if we're doing single target damage, we're going to be close enough to have close combat active. So as long as we can hit the dex requirement, we're good to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ruthless is even better, but I'm going to put in cold penetration to make a point, I guess. So let's see. If we use Augury of Penitence, we're at 547 instead of 505. So we've smashed the DPS that Inevitable Judgment had. And we have a little bit of defense as well. For this one, this is almost 600k DPS, almost 100k higher than our previous numbers when we were looking at this thing. And we get attack speed, which is like, you know, this is only damage and some defense. This is damage and some attack speed. This is negative damage. So oftentimes when you are dealing only one element, this node is like, maybe this node is good on like day 1 of a new league, or maybe it's good in SSF, but really, if you're only dealing one element, this node is not good. There are enough sources in the game that are like very, very inexpensive. Just like get a wave of conviction in your build, you're good to go, right? You can make these kinds of things happen. If you are split elements, you can consider using a Shroud of Lightless. You could, in Heist League, get a generic elemental penetration support gem. You could try to make use of a triple balanced Wise Oak. You could try to use elemental weakness curse instead of like one specific curse. There's all sorts of things. And then like at the end of the day, if none of them work, sure, maybe you use this. But gone are the days when the Inquisitor was like super OP for being able to use this. And like now, actually, it was so many leagues ago. I remember making a mental note of this. It was the league when Primeval Force was added to the skill tree. And like when that happened, it was like all of a sudden there were enough sources of penetration between Primeval Force, Forces of Nature, and like these nodes have been on the skill tree for a while. And like ever since that happened, this node is like, it's just not what it used to be. And it has been for a long time. I think that about covers my thoughts on it. If I've missed anything, let me know. We talked about Wave Conviction, Exposure, Curses, Wise Oak, Cold Penetration Support, penetration on Amulet. You can get penetration on weapons and stuff too. I think that about covers it. Yeah, we good? I think so. All right, we're gonna call it quits there.